fall the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things.
Just a heads up to anyone viewing that the footage provided for the video is going to be completely unrelated. The Running Man hypothesis is one of the plausible explanations for the development of larger brains within Homo sapiens. While it has several categories, I will delve into each of them and explain them in depth on their own. To begin, it's important to understand that we were persistence hunters. And what that means is we pursue our prey for hours, letting them be driven into hypothermic conditions, exhaustion, or whatever else so that they can't properly retaliate. And in doing so, humans needed the ability to actually run for these long periods. Hence why we developed less fur, more sweat glands, and to run upright. An unfortunate thing is, a lot of creatures can't hunt in this manner because their brain will overheat. Lions hunt during dusk and dawn for a very specific reason, and it's the same reason that we hunted at the noon hours. The brain is not capable of withstanding high temperatures, and the neurons will actually burn away and die. A lion, if it tried to hunt at full speed at noon, would probably die, even if it's in good condition. Conversely, we needed to be able to run for 6, 7, or even 8 hours straight, at least in the evolutionary period. So, we needed something in our brain to compensate because that was not going to be fixed by our current cooling system. Theory for Running Man concerns neuron redundancy. Essentially, when a neuron would die, it wouldn't matter because there'd be plenty to replace it. Additionally, extra neurons spreading out from the center would essentially act as a barrier from the heat. They would die first. That's one of the reasons the lizard brain is at the center. That's what we need to physically live, while our higher brain functions like morality and like cognitive thought, puzzle solving, that's all closer to the edge. An important note to make is that the development of tools and farming and language and a variety of other things which would require at least some increase in cranial capacity are actually used as explanations for why we developed these traits. But that doesn't quite work because it would require a little requisite. The video that actually links to this regarding the Big Bangs actually kind of points out the same argument. Essentially, you would need the trait to begin with in order to develop it properly. Language is not something that you can have half developed. At least in the context I mean it. Obviously, languages continue to evolve after they're created, but you can't have a language that means nothing. A similar problem occurs with the hunting process, though. We needed to be able to run long fast, which is why we evolved in actually a really short amount of time in evolutionary scales to be able to run like this. We lost our hair, sweat glands, all this other nonsense. And an unfortunate side effect hinges on birth. In order to have an increased size in brain, we needed to have an increased size of skull, which wouldn't really function with humans. The rapid acceleration in brain growth would be explained by the Running Man theory, while not properly being explained by others, and we can actually see a little bit of proof in the fact that we haven't evolved to give birth to large-skulled babies without having major downsides. There are unfortunately arguments against it, and they mostly have to do with how our environment wasn't conducive to persistence hunting. The earliest members of Homo sapiens would have lived in the African savanna woodlands. That much should be obvious to people by now. Unfortunately, the dense vegetation and dense ground would have made tracking nearly impossible, which would be an issue because tracking is a requirement for persistence hunting. This can be overlooked, however, because of our relationship with dogs. There are, of course, other arguments, and I'll try and find some links to, them to put in the description. I might not be able to find any good ones. In the meantime, that's the Running Man hypothesis, and I will see you in the next video.